My name is Jim McGrew, and I would like to share with you my experience of contact and meeting with Meher Baba, which occurred on April 15th, 1966. Baba was in Guru Prasad in Pune at the time, and the correspondence that had preceded that meeting stressed that Baba was pleased to see me, but for 5 minutes only. And Baba placed a great deal of emphasis upon punctuality and upon the fact that he was only going to grant me an interview for 5 minutes. So I arrived in plenty of time, having been afraid that I would oversleep or something like that. I really wanted to be on time and made a point of it and was early. And I met Erich and Mani and Rano and a couple of the other Mandali who were with Baba at Guru Prasad, and waited there, looked at some pictures of the 1965 darshan for Easterners, which Baba had given. And finally, Erich came back into the room and said that Baba had come and he wanted to see me. So I accompanied Erich down the hall in Guru Prasad and met Baba in the room where he spent time with the men Mandali. And Erich and I took off our sandals at the opening of that room and went through the French doors, and there was Baba. From that point on, I hardly had time to think or even be concerned about what was going to happen, because Baba was the entire focus of the activity in that meeting. He looked at me as if to say, well, what are you doing standing there? Why waste time? You remember, this is in a context of Baba's being emphasizing being very punctual, granting me only a 5-minute interview, and in the midst of intense activity in deep seclusion. Throughout the interview, I was extremely conscious of the fact that Baba was physically emaciated by the work that he was going. His complexion was terrible, to say the least. It was ghastly pale. He presented physically the image of a man who was just undergoing an unbelievable strain, no doubt from the inward work that he was doing and the suffering that he was experiencing for people. On the other hand, the consciousness, the feeling, the radiance that the man had, that shone through what was essentially a broken body, was just overwhelming. It was wonderful. Baba called me in, embraced me, wasted no time at all, and had me sit at his feet and immediately began gesturing. I didn't understand the gestures, but Erich was right there by my side translating the gestures, and Baba went into a question. He asked me if I had known Richard Alpert, and I had done my undergraduate work at Harvard College, where Richard Alpert and Tim Leary were, but I had not been part of the LSD circle and really had never met Professor Alpert. And so I told Baba that I knew who Richard Alpert was, but that I had never met him. And Baba said that he had gotten a letter and immediately began gesturing. I didn't understand the gestures, but Erich was right there by my side translating the gestures, and Baba went into a question. He asked me if I had known Richard Alpert. And I had done my undergraduate work at Harvard College, where Richard Alpert and Tim Leary were, but I had not been part of the LSD circle and really had never met Professor Alpert. And so I told Baba that I knew who Richard Alpert was, but that I had never met him. And Baba said that he had gotten a letter from Richard Alpert the day before, and that Richard Alpert had assured Baba that he was not going to take drugs anymore. And Baba gestured that this made him very happy, and Baba's heart obviously went out to Richard Alpert. Was obviously extremely happy that for whatever reasons Richard Alpert was not going to take drugs anymore. And then Baba looked at me and gestured like that I was not to take drugs, which immediately let me know that Baba knew who I was, and he knew what I had done. He knew that I had taken drugs. I hadn't taken a lot of psychedelic drugs, but I had smoked marijuana to some extent. I had actually stopped several months before seeing Baba, but it didn't matter. Baba had known my past and could see who I was, and was telling me that drugs were not good and not to take drugs. Baba then asked me about Robert Dreyfus, a Baba lover who had met Baba a few months before I saw Baba in Pune. And I had known Robert because we had met in Boston, and we had grown to grow closer to Baba, and our interests in mysticism, and particularly in Baba, had begun to flourish together. Baba asked me if I had seen him before before I left America to come to see Baba, and I said to Baba that I had not seen Robert. Then Baba went right on to the next question. He asked me, had I seen Diana Grace, or where had Diana Grace gone? Diana was a girl who was going to come to see Baba with me, and had decided not to see Baba for her own reasons. Baba undoubtedly knew what they were. I told Baba that Diana had gone back to her work, and Baba said that that was good. He was obviously concerned about Diana. He obviously loved her and felt that she had made a decision that was good. But Baba said, "You are far more fortunate." And I knew very well inside myself that I was far more fortunate to be able to be with Baba then. And then Baba asked me if I had read Stay with God. And I said, in fact, I had never heard of Stay with God. So I said no, and Baba had me turn around, and he introduced me to Francis Brabazon, who was in the back of the room with several of the Mandali. There were about 5 or 6 of the men Mandali, as I remember. And at that point, not only when I was meeting Francis, but when I saw the other Mandali, I didn't stay with God. So I said no, and Baba had me turn around, and he introduced me to Francis Brabazon, who was in the back of the room with several of the Mandali. There were about 5 or 6 of the men Mandali, as I remember. And at that point, not only when I was meeting Francis, but when I saw the other Mandali, I became aware of the flow of love between Baba and the men who were in the back of the room. There were no words, there were no, Baba wasn't communicating with them and giving them messages or anything, but there was just a tremendous rapport, a feeling of love coming from Baba, as if it were some kind of faucet or waterfall. It was just there to be had, and I realized that the great secret in loving Baba is not so much that Baba puts out more love at any given time to any one individual, that Baba, like the sun, is always there. He's always shining. He's always giving of his love. And those lovers who can hold the most, those lovers who are the most empty, those lovers who can contain the most of his love, as Baba says, those lovers who are capable of swallowing the ocean are the ones who take away the most of Baba's love. But the feeling was constant. Baba was giving himself to everything and everyone. It was just an unbelievable feeling of love coming from Baba in that room, and not the kind of mushy love that, you know, was written up in the songs and the romantic stories here in popular magazines, but a very, very light, very happy, very joyful, carefree kind of feeling. It was just so light, like Baba's embrace, which was about the lightest embrace that I've ever experienced. There was a body there, but it was completely being used like a puppet by the consciousness that was the powerful force. So here we had gone through half of the meeting, and I expected in this 5-minute interview Baba was going to really sock me with heavy spiritual discourses and questions, and I would come away feeling just overpowered by Baba's knowledge of the spiritual path and by my spiritual inadequacies and all this, and I would go back a wiser and humbler man and grateful that I had met Baba and that he taught me these lessons. But here Baba was engaging in conversation about professor at school and one of my friends in Boston and another of my friends in India, and introducing me to one of his disciples. It was almost kind of a very casual, informal session, and so there was this kind of feeling that I can be aware of now when I look back on that meeting, that, you know, gee, Baba wasn't getting down to the nitty-gritty. We're wasting our 5 minutes here. I mean, why don't we get to the spiritual discourses after I have to go back and tell all the people in America what he said in 5 minutes. He condensed the whole spiritual path, didn't he? Well, yeah. But I wasn't hearing that, and Baba was playing with me. He knew all this, of course. And he continued in somewhat the same vein. He finally asked me how I had slept, and I was just playing with me. He knew that I had these feelings of being restless and impatient, and I wanted to have all these important things discussed and so on. But Baba continued in his own way. He was going to make me come to him, and he asked me how I had slept, and well, I said pretty well, but not perfectly. And then Baba asked me what my plans were. I told Baba that I was getting the 3 o'clock train out of Pune back to Bombay, and then I was about to leave India and go back to the States and go back to school. And Baba said those plans made him happy, and he made a particular point that I should not miss my train, which was another Baba emphasis on punctuality, and also Baba kind of reading my mind that I was having a lot of feelings about wanting to stay around and spend some time with a Mandali and just sort of hang around. But Baba, in this interview, showed me that he was working at an intense pace. He was working very, very rapidly, and it was almost as if a man who was running down the street at full pace stopped in his tracks, said hello, was very sweet and kind and loving, and then ran on. And the kind of feeling that I got was that, you know, Baba had his work to do, and I had my work to do, and we should get on with it, get moving. And then Baba asked me if I had any questions, and my mind was blown. I just drew a complete blank, and never occurred to me that Baba would ask me if I had any questions for him. But I had written Baba a little poem, and I was about to hand the poem up to Baba, and Baba said, no, read it out, as if to say, you know, we like poetry around here, we enjoy that kind of thing. And so I did read it out to Baba, and it went something like, ignorance of you is despair, knowledge of you is hope, love of you is happiness, service to you is dignity, but obedience to you is bliss. Baba said he liked the last line. Francis sort of gave a cheer from the back of the room, and then Baba had me stand up, and he had his brother Jal stand up. And first thing Baba did was he commented on my height, said, you have nice height. And he said, you know, the Indians in town, he wanted Jal to show me around the town, will get a big laugh out of the fact that there's a tall American and a short Indian. They'll think that's very funny. And Francis immediately piped in. He said, well, Baba said, that's the long and the short of it, I guess. And then Baba said, but you can understand that Jal's growth is stunted. And so here was a lot of corny humor and jokes going on. It was another thing that I just completely didn't expect, this kind of frivolity and humor going on in the presence of the avatar. But there was a very, very warm feeling that went around when Baba made these jokes. It was if, you know, this is our family, we all know each other, we all love each other, and so we feel free to make fun of each other. We take these liberties, but they're because we really love each other, and then we feel that we can do this with each other. And then Baba